So you have another essay in your book that I think our audience would love to talk about, because we're not in the exact same space as this gentleman, but he really overlaps with a lot of the personal finance, self-improvement kind of universe. And that's Tim Ferriss. And you wrote a chapter that's mostly focused on him and his books, but is more broadly about the concept of gurus and life hacking and mastering your own life and body and self. And a lot of kind of the, maybe not necessarily the shortcomings of that approach, but the sort of hollowness in a lot of ways of that approach. And first and foremost, like, tell us, especially for those who haven't read the book, what your take on what a guru is and how Tim Ferriss plays into that.
Well, I mean, okay, so gurus, I was struggling with the concept of gurus because my last book before this was really about, it was Ask Polly columns, right? So it was really a book of advice. And so I was toying a lot with what my role in the world should be and how I could navigate as a person who represents, I give advice. I'm a person who knows a few things, without either being totally disappointing physically and emotionally and everything when you show up at a reading and there she is and Jesus, why would I ever take advice from that terrible person? But so that was part of it. But then when you get into that space of like, well, what should I be? How should I seem if I'm going to get, bestow, wisdom on people and, live? Like what shouldn't I be prettier and more fashionable? And then when you get into those layers of like, how do I game my body to be, better? And also just when you're obsessed with self-improvement, which you tend to be when you're giving people advice all the time and you're trying to solve the problem of how to fix their lives, right? You start to understand the folds of where you could easily become just a mutant who is so fixated on optimizing every dimension of their reality that you almost become like a cyborg who can't just exist in a moment and be imperfect and accept the imperfection of other people also. Like I think that there's like a space in our culture where people just feel like, Jesus, I'm really doing this. I'm firing on all pistons. Look at all the, look, the secret doors are opening up. I'm meeting interesting, amazing people who have money and are fabulous. And they want to know me because they read my shit. And, it's easy to get into this glamour. I mean, it's not that glamorous, but into this space of, in order to be with these people, I'm going to need to be living my best life and being my best. And if you're a neurotic person, which I am, your brain turns against you because it's like, hold on, you give people advice? What the hell are you doing? Like, why are you wearing that underwear?
Like everything is called into question.
Everything's called into question, including like, there's a dust bunny in the corner.
Right.
Why are there smudges on your windows? Like, what's going on with you? Like, why are your roots gray?
What does that represent?
I think that we're in a time in history where, here I am on camera, right? You hear my voice. What if I had a weird voice? You can see me now. It's intense to be a writer who's also supposed to be a brand that represents, everyone is in this space. You don't have to be a writer.
Yeah.
Our world is making brands out of all people. And in order to survive, you kind of need, especially as a writer, you need several income streams. You have to be managing your business and owning your brand and promoting and all these layers of things. So in the process of looking through that, the main thing I think that I dedicated myself to was like not selling other people on a way of life that, avoiding selling people something that was basically just enabled by money, right? Or enabled by whiteness, or enabled by, I'm married I'm married to a professor and I'm fine and I live in the suburbs. Like trying to understand, like, not like a, hey, it's so easy. You just work this amount and then you go surf in Costa Rica. It's fucking fun and great, man.
Yeah.
Let's go with your friends, Steve Jobs and,
Mark Cuban. Cubes.
Yeah. We've hacked life, man. We figured it out. You know? It's like, and then to also call your privilege, hey, I'm the best life hacker there is.
Yeah.
Like, And also there's the feminine version of that. It's like sort of, I mean, you know, not to dogpile Gwyneth, but Goop is
dogpile her. Like, I'm sorry. Okay, you point out something. So first and foremost, like Tim Ferriss's brand and his approach to life is just like fundamentally not for me. Like, I'm very much like, I'm similar to you in that I like a life that feels imperfect and open to the sort of messiness of reality. I like all of that stuff, and I don't like looking at myself through a prism of optimization, because I think that easily for a lot of people can spiral into a kind of mania where it's never
and also dissatisfaction
with any natural imperfections. But I think what was most compelling to me about it was the point that for so many of these gurus, Tim Ferriss only being one of them, there's such a lack of any kind of analysis that extends beyond the self, almost by necessity, because you can't really bring into question, like, what are your structural advantages and disadvantages, or like, what should you do if you have crippling medical debt or can't afford to feed your family, or any of these things, or are having a harder time getting hired for the same job because of, the body that you might be in, all of these things. There's nothing around it. It's all sort of in a vacuum. But then a step further, it's not really going toward anything. There's no intrinsic motivation of like, I want to, because it would be understandable to say, I want to have 60 hours free a week because I want to work on this very specific problem that needs solving. And I need to dedicate all of my resources. And there are people who are that way, to give as much as they can of themselves to a specific thing. But a perfect example for me, so I'm someone who, I've done intermittent fasting for, it's like almost 4 years now. And I initially lost like 25, 30 pounds doing it. And then I've just kind of like maintained for the rest of it. But it's funny because I initially did it for a very specific reason, which continues to be the specific reason, which is that I need a certain amount of calories per day that's kind of low. And I really want to be able to eat a big dinner and have dessert and not really worry about it. And that's basically the only way to do it, because otherwise I have to cut up my meals into like 3 really shitty low calorie meals every day. And so
what do you do? You just don't eat for 12 hours a day or something?
So generally speaking, I won't eat until around 1 p.m. I have a very small lunch, like high protein, but relatively low calorie. And then I just literally eat whatever I want for dinner and don't think about it. Yeah. And so, but for me, that intermittent fasting is and always has been a very specific means to a very specific goal that is centered in my own enjoyment of life.
Yes.
And when I read about intermittent fasting, like, God forbid I go on those fucking forums, because it is just nothing but people who are interested in doing it for some sort of like biohacking self-optimization. But I'm like, are you even enjoying this? Like, are you even getting anything out of it? And of course, the reputation, because of these gurus, of intermittent fasting is a terrible one. But ultimately, I think it can get that way because you're not really doing it for anything. Yeah. There's no goal.